Daughter forced by stepmother to marry a beggar for ultimate humiliation. A 28-year-old man with uncombed hair and shredded clothes sat on the pavement. His brown eyes, once lively, were now dim from fatigue and hunger. The visible bones beneath his ripped shirt showed weeks of limited meals. Kamau observed the hectic rush of people, feeling unseen amid the crowd. His stomach rumbled achingly, reminding him he had not eaten in more than 2 days. Just one. More day, Kamau, you can handle it. Somebody will notice you today, he whispered to himself, striving to keep hope alive. Who am I fooling? Nobody looks twice at a wanderer, he thought, his inner voice weighed down by resentment. The hours crawled by slowly, and Kamau battled the impulse to search through nearby trash bins for leftovers. He had promised himself he would not fall to that level, but hunger was a ruthless foe. His eyes automatically followed each person who passed with containers of food or cups of tea. The smell of roasted maize sold on the corner tormented his senses, making his mouth water and his belly protest more loudly. Maybe I should try that shelter again. No, I cannot. The last time. Kamau shuddered, not finishing the thought. Why did it have to come to this? I wish I had not grown up this way. I wish I had had a family, a home. His mind wandered painfully, recalling his past. As the afternoon wore on, Kamau's hopelessness intensified. He noticed other homeless people approach passers-by, asking for small change, but he could not summon the bravery to do likewise. His pride, the last thing he had, held him back. An older man sitting nearby looked at Kamau with a combination of pity and recognition. "Child, sometimes things appear grim, but we persist," the man said, his voice rough from age and life in the open. "I know, but it sometimes feels like our life on the street will never shift. We only have the few coins given by kind souls. But we need more work opportunities, housing to escape here and decent food on the table," Kamau replied, his voice trembling between hope and doubt. Suddenly, as if the universe perceived his silent plea, a middle-aged woman halted in front of Kamau. Wordlessly, she handed him a paper bag holding a still warm sandwich. The aroma of freshly baked bread and cooked meat filled his nostrils, making his stomach clench with anticipation. Kamau lifted his gaze to the woman, his eyes brimming with gratitude. "Thank you, madam. You have no idea what this means to me," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. The woman simply gave a gentle smile and continued on her way, leaving Kamau in wonder at that act of generosity. Perhaps there is still kindness in this world. Perhaps I am not fully alone, Kamau thought, sensing a flicker of hope kindle in his chest. As Kamau readied himself to relish the precious sandwich, his eyes landed on 2 other men nearby. Their thin faces and hungry looks were a reflection of his own plight. Without hesitation, Kamau split the sandwich into 3 pieces, offering them to his fellow sufferers. "Hey, brothers, let's share. Nobody should go hungry when we can aid each other," he said, his voice husky yet caring. Across the street, 2 women were observing the scene. Zaina, a young lady with long black braids and warm brown eyes, felt her heart clench at the sight of that generosity. She took a step toward the sidewalk, resolved to give more support, when she felt a sharp yank on her arm. Fatima, her stepmother, a middle-aged woman with severe features and a chilly look, was gripping her firmly. "Do not even think about it, Zaina. I will not permit you to mix with those people," Fatima hissed, her dark eyes flashing with anger. "But Fatima, they need support. How can we just walk away?" Zaina asked, her voice quivering with passion and indignation. Fatima dragged Zaina away from the scene, her high heels resonating on the sidewalk as they neared an upscale shop, the difference between the gleaming store windows and the harsh truth of the street glaring. Zaina resisted, her eyes still on Kamau and his companions. Fatima abruptly stopped, spinning to face her stepdaughter, her features twisted with revulsion and barely contained rage. "Have you lost your mind, Zaina? These people are dangerous. They would surely spend any money you gave them on vices," Fatima hissed, her tone harsh. "You don't know that, Fatima. That man just divided the only food he likely had today. How can you be so cold?" Zaina retorted, her voice shaking with indignation. Their argument drew curious glances from onlookers. Zaina, usually quiet, felt an unexpected bravery arise within her. She pulled away from Fatima's grasp and moved determinedly toward the street. "They are human beings, Fatima. They deserve compassion, not scorn," Zaina exclaimed, her voice strengthening. Fatima grabbed Zaina's arm again, her polished nails sinking into her stepdaughter's flesh. "You do not comprehend how life operates, my dear. These people decided on this lifestyle. We are not responsible for saving them," Fatima declared, her tone belittling. "Decided? Nobody elects to starve or dwell on the street. How can you be so unaware?" Zaina returned, tears of frustration brightening her eyes. Resolute, Zaina broke free one more time before Fatima could halt her. She sprinted across the road, approaching Kamau and his companions. With unsteady hands, Zaina pulled out some CD notes from her bag. "Please, take this. I hope it offers some help," she said, extending the money to Kamau. The young man eyed Zaina in surprise, touched by her act. Their gazes locked momentarily, an unspoken bond passing between them. "Thank you, miss. Your generosity means more than you can guess," Kamau answered, his voice rough with emotion. "It is nothing, really. I only wish I could do more," Zaina whispered, feeling both relieved and powerless in the face of their hardship. Fatima watched from a distance, her face a blend of fury and something else, planning. Her dark eyes narrowed, fixed on Kamau. There was a certain quality about him, something beyond his worn look that her calculating mind noticed. An idea began to form, a solution that could settle several of her problems at once. Zaina returned to the sidewalk, bracing herself for her stepmother's upcoming scolding. To her astonishment, Fatima did not scream or punish her right away. Instead, a cold grin shaped her mouth. "Well, since you insist on associating with those people, perhaps I should educate you with a lesson about them. Do you not agree?" Fatima proposed, her tone dripping with satire. "What do you have in mind, Fatima?" Zaina asked, a sudden dread gripping her at her stepmother's shift in manner. As the two women moved away, Fatima cast one final glance at Kamau, her eyes shining with chilly determination, an idea clearly established in her cunning mind. Zaina, still puzzled by Fatima's abrupt change in behavior, did not see that look. She was immersed in her own reflections, replaying the short exchange with Kamau. There was something about him, a dignity and empathy that stood out strongly despite his unstable condition. That young man, there's something unique about him, do you not think? Fatima said casually, her voice reflecting an interest that gave Zaina a worrying chill. "Why so sudden, Fatima? Moments ago you insisted I ignore him entirely," Zaina responded, failing to hide her suspicion. When they arrived at the estate, Fatima strode through the front doors, her heels echoing through the marble entry. Zaina followed quietly, still unnerved by the day's events. Abasi, alerted by the bustling entrance, emerged from his study with a frown of concern. Fatima wasted no time on introductions. "Abasi, your daughter is out of control. Today she nearly mingled with wanderers on the road." "Wanderers?" Her voice resounded in the hall, laced with disgust. Abasi looked from Fatima to Zaina, his expression a mixture of puzzlement and despair. "Zaina, is that so?" he asked, weariness tinging his voice. "Father, I just tried to assist someone in dire need. I do not see any wrong in that," Zaina answered, her tone slightly shaky but firm in its conviction. Fatima seized Abasi's arm, towing him into the study and shutting the door, leaving Zaina outside. The muffled noise of their confrontation seeped through the wood. "Do you not see the hazard, Abasi? She's destroying our reputation by mingling with the dregs of society," Fatima ranted, her eyes flashing. Abasi collapsed into his leather chair, rubbing his face wearily. "Fatima, she has a pure heart. We cannot criticize her for that," he argued, faint but trying. "A pure heart in this world. That is a liability we cannot afford," Fatima retorted, her tone as sharp as a razor. Their disagreement flared, Fatima reciting Zaina's latest offenses, her unapproved gifts to charities, her volunteer work in poor districts, her refusal to attend high-status events. Abasi listened, his face growing paler by the minute. "She is jeopardizing all we have worked for, Abasi. Our standing, our links." Everything can be lost because of her infatuation with helping the less advantaged, Fatima continued in a furious whisper. But she is my daughter, Fatima. I cannot change who she is, Abbasi protested, although his voice was already surrendering. Fatima halted her furious walk around the office, turning toward Abbasi with a menacing gleam in her eyes. I have a plan, she proclaimed, her voice abruptly calm and in control, a plan that can solve two issues at once. Abbasi straightened, vigilant. He recognized that tone of Fatima's, which usually foreshadowed bad outcomes. What plan? He asked, guarded, fearful of the reply. A plan that will instruct Zaina, Fatima said, a cold smile appearing on her face. A stifling quiet settled in the study. Abbasi gazed at Fatima, torn between alarm and curiosity. He knew he ought to defend his daughter, but decades of Fatima's plotting had worn him down. What, precisely, are you suggesting? He finally asked, his voice hardly above a murmur. Fatima moved closer to the window, gazing out onto the manicured garden. Marriage, Abbasi. We will force Zaina to marry that wanderer, she declared, her voice filled with merciless triumph. Abbasi choked, astonished. You must be joking, Fatima. That is wicked, he exclaimed, rising. Wicked? No, dear, it is an essential lesson. Think of it. What better way to teach Zaina the harsh realities of life than to make her live with someone like him? Fatima responded, each word chosen to wound. Abbasi paced the study, running a hand through his graying hair in despair. What about her joy? She is my daughter. She deserves more than this, Fatima, he argued, troubled. Fatima swung to face him, her eyes set with unwavering resolve. Joy, Abbasi. We are talking about your daughter's future. Visualize how people will talk, the stares at social gatherings. Zaina must grasp the impact of her naive behavior, she explained, every syllable thick with belief. This seems so unjust, Fatima. My daughter would never be embarrassed by a humble man. She is kind-hearted. Do you think that will break her? Abbasi demanded, a glimmer of pride in his voice. Fatima let out a cold laugh. Oh, Abbasi, do you really believe she can handle it? She is kind, yes, but also sheltered by comfort. A few days with that wanderer, and she will be begging for an exit, she said dismissively. Abbasi leaned on the desk, his shoulders slumped under the burden of Fatima's plan. And the young man? How will we convince him to do this? This farce, he asked, unconvinced. Money, dear. We will offer him enough that he cannot resist. For somebody in his position, it will be impossible to say no, Fatima returned, confident. Another long stillness filled the office. Abbasi stared at the wall, his mind in turmoil as fatherly care clashed with the fear of losing social favor. I am unsure, Fatima. It seems we are going too far. Can we not speak to her first? He murmured, uneasy. Fatima came near him, her tone soft but unwavering. Words alone are not enough. Zaina must see for herself. Sometimes we must be strict to protect those we cherish, she insisted, mixing persuasion and a cold brand of concern. Yes, but forcing a marriage, gambling with her life this way. There must be another path, Abbasi objected, his voice reflecting his inner battle. Abbasi at length walked over to the window, peering at the world outside, so complicated and full of traps for his beloved daughter. Sighing deeply, he turned to Fatima. This will end badly, Fatima. You misjudge. Zaina's strength, he murmured, truly concerned. Irritated by Abbasi's lack of enthusiasm, Fatima folded her arms, her glare rigid. Your hesitation is the reason Zaina is out of control. Sometimes we must make difficult choices. You are her father. You must safeguard our image, she snapped. Late. That afternoon, as the sun touched the horizon above the city's park, Kamau sat on a battered bench, observing the passers-by. Then a refined figure appeared. Fatima, in her fancy coat and high heels, seemed out of place in that environment. She stopped before Kamau, her cold stare sizing him up. You are the wanderer who was here earlier, right? I am Fatima, Zaina's stepmother. The woman who accompanied her, she explained, her tone blending scorn with a forced politeness. Kamau stood, confused and slightly guarded. "Yes, that is me. My name is Kamau. What do you want, madam?" he asked, his voice rasping. "I have a proposition that might change your whole life," Fatima announced, wearing a cunning smile. She wasted no time unveiling her plan. A marriage of convenience to Zaina, promising Kamau an existence of comfort in exchange for his agreement. Kamau listened, his eyes widening in surprise. "You want me to wed your stepdaughter, the kind woman who helped me today, for money?" he demanded. Fatima nodded. "Think about it, Kamau. You need never again worry about food or a bed. You would have everything you have ever wanted," she urged. "I cannot do that. I refuse to misuse somebody's goodness, especially Zaina's," Kamau said, shaking his head. His refusal angered Fatima, but she maintained her poise, appealing to Kamau's conscience. "Imagine how many others you could assist with that money, your comrades in the streets, the ones starving. Is that not what Zaina would do? Use her. Means for others." Kamau's hands closed into fists as the images of his fellow homeless people filled his mind. "I really could make a difference," he murmured to himself. "Indeed, is that not the essence of Zaina's compassion?" Fatima pressed, sensing his wavering. Kamau's gaze drifted to Fatima's coat, noticing a gold emblem pinned to the lapel. Its design, a rose curled by vines, sparked a remote memory. He stretched out automatically, nearly touching it. "This brooch. I have seen it before," he uttered, his voice unsteady. Fatima pulled back, startled. "It is only an old family piece, nothing major," she said quickly, covering it with her palm. "Strange, I'm certain I recall it. I remember somebody wearing it, a woman singing to me when I was little," Kamau thought, trying to piece together the blurred memories. "Shall we go?" "I am sure you will help many by accepting," Fatima prodded, signaling Kamau to join her. He nodded. Before leaving, he turned to his street friends, vowing to bring assistance. "I will be back. I promise I will find a way," he said, choking up. Sitting in the polished car that smelled of new upholstery, Kamau could not stop pondering. The unsettling familiarity of Fatima's pin and the bizarre proposal. "I hope I am doing the right thing, but if it allows me to help others, maybe I have to try," he murmured, tapping his knee nervously. Minutes later, the sleek vehicle glided through the estate gates, the grand house rising up. Kamau, seated in the back, stared at the imposing structure. Zaina, reading by her bedroom window, heard the engine and peered out, shocked to see Kamau stepping out of the car, looking uneasy in his ragged clothing. "What's happening? Why did Fatima bring him here? What is she plotting?" Zaina whispered, her heart pounding. Fatima led Kamau inside, throwing a knowing glance at Zaina. "Wait here," she instructed Kamau, leaving him in the foyer. She marched upstairs and rapped on Zaina's door, then entered without pause. "Zaina, dear, we have to talk," she announced with a forced sweetness. Zaina faced her stepmother warily, anxious. "Fatima, what are you doing? Why is that man here?" she asked, her voice shaking. "All will be revealed, my dear. First, have a seat. We have much to discuss," Fatima said, gesturing for Zaina to sit at the bed's edge. Zaina, ill at ease, obliged, never taking her eyes off Fatima. Fatima paced, her heels pounding on the wood floor. "Zaina, your fixation on aiding the poor is troubling. Your father and I agree it's time you learn a real-world lesson," she started, faking concern. Zaina felt a tightness in her stomach. "What do you mean?" she asked, dreading the reply. "I mean outcomes, darling, and a marriage," Fatima declared, flashing a cold grin. Zaina bolted up, her hands shaking. "Marriage? Whose marriage?" she demanded, her voice climbing. Fatima turned to face her. "You will wed the wanderer downstairs, Kamau, the one you felt so compelled to assist," she stated, savoring each syllable. Zaina felt blood drain from her face. "This is madness. You cannot be serious," she shouted, her voice bouncing off the walls. "Oh, but I am. And before you refuse, allow me to clarify the repercussions if you do not cooperate," Fatima threatened, her voice dropping to an ominous murmur. Zaina collapsed onto the bed, her mind swirling at the absurdity of it all. "I only helped someone in need. What did I do to deserve this? You have no right. It is illegal, immoral," she retorted, tears threatening to spill. Fatima leaned forward, eye to eye with Zaina. "I have every right unless you want to see. Your new wanderer buddy locked up on serious charges. It would be so unfortunate if something unlawful turned up in his bag, wouldn't it?" she said malevolently. "You wouldn't. He's not guilty. He did nothing wrong," Zaina stammered, dread gripping her. "Why, Fatima, what do you gain?" Fatima's frosty laugh surfaced. "What do I gain, dear Zaina? A daughter-in-law who learns her place. You will see that not everyone you pity deserves it," she replied, stepping back. "And Kamal? What about him?" Zaina asked, her voice low, her eyes flicking toward the door. "He'll be safe with a roof over his head. And you will get a hard but necessary wake-up call," Fatima replied briskly. Kamal was taken to a plush bathroom adjoining his new room, his eyes wide at the large marble tub and toiletries. "Everything you need is here," the butler said, pointing to soft towels and grooming items. Kamal only nodded, overwhelmed. Alone, he turned the faucet on, letting the warm water fill the tub. When was my last genuine bath, he wondered, slowly peeling off his shredded clothing. "Will I ever scrub away all this dirt?" he asked, anxious and expectant as he slipped into the water. He sighed in relief, layers of grime lifting. As he scrubbed with the scented soap, he dipped his head under the water, washing his hair over and over. Soon the water darkened, proof of his life outside. He remained until the water turned cool, relishing every minute of cleanliness. "It's like being reborn," he whispered, seeing his clean skin for the first time in years. "Who would have guessed a bath could make someone feel human again?" he murmured, deeply moved. Wrapped in a towel, Kamal gazed at his reflection in the foggy mirror. His beard was long and unkempt, concealing his face. Carefully, he reached for a razor and cream, shaving away the beard slowly, unveiling the visage he had almost forgotten. When he was done, Kamal hardly recognized the reflection. "Is that really me?" he asked, touching his smooth cheeks. Shocked. "It's as if I'm seeing a stranger," he thought, overwhelmed. Wearing the new clothes provided for him, Kamal felt like a fraud. The fine, tailored fabric clashed with his history in tatters. He adjusted the collar, awkward, and glanced one last time in the mirror. "You can do it, Kamal. This kind of life. That means you can help a lot of people," he told himself. Descending the stairs, Kamal sensed all eyes on him. Zaina, standing at the bottom, gasped at his transformation. Their eyes met, and for an instant, time stood still. "Kamal, I almost didn't recognize you," she whispered, her voice tinged with both surprise and another emotion he couldn't place. Fatima arrived, giving Kamal a contemptuous glance. "Excellent. I see you cleaned up acceptably, at least," she remarked, faux sweet. Kamal only nodded, short on words. As they headed to the dining room, he felt Zaina's gaze on him. What is she thinking? He wondered, uneasy in a manner he never felt on the street. Over the following days, it was a whirlwind of wedding preparations and heightened strain. Now in the chair of a deluxe salon, Zaina stared at her reflection, while the stylist shaped her intricate bridal hairdo. Her eyes were sorrowful, yet shone with determination, her hands resting on the white gown in her lap. She could not help thinking of Kamau and the swift changes he had undergone. He must be just as confused as I am. Maybe this wedding will let me truly assist him, achieve the difference I've always dreamed of, Zaina said inwardly, a faint smile on her lips. Noticing her thoughtful expression, the stylist tried to cheer her up. Are you excited for the big day, miss? She asked kindly. Zaina paused. It's complicated, but I am set on making the best of it, she finally answered, their eyes meeting in the mirror. She recalled the moments spent with Kamau these past days, the careful chats, the hesitant smiles, the genuine thankfulness in his gaze. He merits a chance to rebuild his life. Perhaps we can find a shared purpose in this situation, she thought. As the stylist finished, Zaina overheard two staff members whispering nearby, That's Fatima's stepdaughter. Remember that scandal with her stepmother? One said. The other nodded. Yes, they say she was part of something dreadful, though never proven. Their conversation ended abruptly when they noticed Zaina looking in the mirror. They retreated, uneasy. Zaina's heart pounded. Something dreadful? What if Fatima isn't who she claims to be? She acts like she resents me, Zaina thought. She gazed out the salon window, seeing her own reflection. A bride, yes, but also a woman on a mission. I will uncover the truth. If Fatima hides, something I will find out, Zaina vowed, her expression firm. Later that day, under the fading sun, fancy cars lined up at a grand church. Kamau, in a suit that felt foreign, stood at the entrance. Members of the elite exited their cars, throwing him curious, judging looks. Whispers spread. Is he the wanderer? How humiliating, he heard. Kamau felt his stomach turn, the stark reality of his situation hitting home. How did I get here? Do they all despise me? Does Zaina feel the same? He wondered, fidgeting with his tie. An elderly couple walked by, the woman's face set with distaste. My dear, did you hear? Fatima supposedly dragged him off the streets. Poor Zaina, she whispered loudly. Her husband nodded, glancing at Kamau with scorn. They say it's a lesson, but it tarnishes the family, being involved with someone like him, he muttered. Kamau felt color leave his cheeks. So that's why? Fatima's humiliating Zaina through me. How naive I was, he thought, frustration and guilt erupting in him. More visitors arrived, compounding his tension. He saw Fatima in the distance, greeting guests with a fake grin and throwing smug glances his way. Kamau clenched his fists, enraged. A gentle hand came to rest on his shoulder. It was Abasi, Zaina's father, who looked at Kamau with regret and shame. Kamau, I'm sorry about this, he mumbled. But before Kamau could reply, Abasi was swept away. He's as much a victim of Fatima's schemes as everyone, Kamau thought. Then an older man leaning on a carved cane approached, looking closely. The man's eyes showed surprise, then familiarity. Impossible, the man muttered, scanning Kamau's face. Kamau felt a brief hope. Perhaps this elder was not judging him. The man checked their surroundings, uneasy, and leaned in. Young man, I must speak to you. Alone, immediately, he whispered, voice quivering. Of course, sir. But why? Is there an issue? Kamau asked, lowering his voice. The man looked around once more. Not here. Go behind the church in 5 minutes. You need to know, he said, hobbling off. Kamau stood still, adrenaline coursing through him. What is happening? Who is he? And what must he tell me? He wondered. Anxiety building. Soon after, the old man revealed everything Kamau needed to learn. Stunned, Kamau walked back inside. The ceremony was about to begin. The wedding party and guests settled in their seats, tension visible. Standing by the altar, Kamau felt his heart pound, the man's words echoing in his mind. He fixed his gaze on the entrance, choosing to go through with this, at least for Zaina's sake, even while the truth churned inside him. The officiant noticed Kamau's stress. All right, son, he murmured. Kamau merely nodded, jaw set. I have to be strong. Zaina must know, but not like this, not here, he reflected. The music began, all eyes on the door. Zaina appeared in her bridal dress, luminous yet with fearful determination. Step by step she advanced down the aisle, each step feeling heavy, as if she marched toward a fate she could not fully predict. Kamau noted her trembling lip, the terror masked by her courage. Fatima in the front row smiled triumphantly, but Kamau saw it now as something sinister. If she only knew what I just discovered, Kamau thought, fists tight. When Zaina reached Kamau, their eyes locked. A moment of silent understanding passed between them, two souls standing firm together. The officiant began the ritual, but to Kamau the words blurred under the weight of the secret he held. Hold on, Kamau. Soon. Let's do this at the right moment, he told himself. The ceremony continued, the tension building. At last came the critical question. If anyone knows of any reason these two should not be joined, speak now. The hush in the church was deafening. Kamau felt his body stiffen, the truth blazing in him. He nearly spoke up when, to everyone's shock, Fatima rose abruptly. I have something to say, she announced, her voice slicing through the silence. Kamau's heart raced. Does she suspect I learned the truth? he wondered, dread rising. Fatima strode up the aisle, her heels ringing out, her face twisted in a cruel smirk as she stood near the altar. "Dear guests," she began, all sugar and venom, "I think everyone needs to know the reality of this wedding." Her eyes landed on Zaina, who was paralyzed by terror. "This girl," she continued, gesturing at Zaina, "believed she could flout our social status by associating with filth from the street. Well, this wedding is the outcome of her naive compassion." Murmurs of astonishment and censure circulated. Kamau clenched his fists, rage pooling in his chest. "Enough of your hateful show," he thought. Fatima kept on cruelly. "Here she stands, a bride who picked a wanderer, a man living outside dirty and desperate until barely a week ago." The congregation stirred. Abbasi stood, outraged. "Fatima, stop! How can you degrade my daughter?" he shouted, shaking with fury. "Your daughter," Fatima sneered. "She brought this upon herself, Abbasi," she said, glaring. Zaina's cheeks burned with shame, but she no longer cowered. A small spark of defiance lit in her eyes. She moved to speak, but Kamau took a step first, placing himself between Fatima and Zaina, his eyes fierce. "Enough, Fatima. Enough of your dishonesty," he said quietly but strongly. Everyone fell silent. Fatima stepped back, startled by Kamau's boldness. "What are you doing?" she hissed, her grip on control slipping. Kamau glared directly at her. "I am telling the truth you've kept hidden." The crowd was transfixed as Kamau advanced a pace. He inhaled, summoning his courage. His voice rang out, reverberating off the church walls. "The time for truth is here, Fatima. You believed you could bury the past, but it always emerges. My real name is Nuru Gakuo, although I've spent years using the name I was given on the streets. I am the son of Moses Gakuo, your second husband. He died under puzzling conditions, leaving you everything, but I stood in your way. I was the rightful heir, so you discarded me. I was too young to recall much, and everyone believed your story when I vanished. While living on the streets, I felt drawn here, never fully knowing why, until now. A gentleman recognized a birthmark. I carry, one he remembered from Moses Gakuo's son who mysteriously disappeared. You never realized that offering me this opportunity was the key to unlocking the very past you tried to hide. The pin you always wear. I saw it as a boy, the only thing I still remembered when you abandoned me in a far-off town. Every time you saw someone begging, you saw me, the child you had tossed aside. Bringing me here, you restored the life you stole from me, but no more. I am here to reclaim my identity and hold you accountable for your lies, your manipulations, and your cruelty against me, Zaina and Abbasi." When Kamau finished, the church broke into uproar. Zaina stood frozen, tears streaming, yet a glimmer of relief. Fatima went pale, trembling. Abbasi was stunned, realizing the reality of his wife's schemes. In the days that followed, Kamau, determined to confirm his identity, took a DNA test with a distant Gakuo relative. Tension ran high. Eventually, in the lawyer's office, Kamau, Zaina and Abbasi gathered as the envelope was opened. "It's a match," the lawyer said, his voice echoing in the hush. "Kamau is undoubtedly Moses Gakuo's long-lost son." As Zaina squeezed Kamau's hand, tears of joy welling up. Abbasi, drained but relieved, gripped Kamau's shoulder. "Finally, everything is clear," Kamau murmured, voice thick with emotion. The repercussions for Fatima were swift. Suspected of fraud, manipulation, and possibly involvement in Moses's death, she faced a lengthy court battle. Police soon arrived at the estate with a search warrant, seizing documents and even her pin, which was vital evidence. The prosecutor, eager to take down an influential figure, investigated Moses's supposed accident from years before. Former friends avoided Fatima like the plague, and her resources were frozen. Her once grand social empire fell, leaving her, almost imprisoned by the mansion walls, paparazzi lurking outside. Ironic that Fatima, who had made Kamau suffer so, was now experiencing a fraction of his past despair. Meanwhile, Kamau and Zaina came closer, bonded by their trials. They married in a modest service, free of pretense. Their bond was real, motivated by genuine affection and a shared resolve to do good. "Kamau," Zaina said gently, holding her. "Husband's hands. How about we use our combined wealth to help people who are where you once were?" Kamau's eyes shone. "Nothing would make me happier. Let's transform our sad history into something good." The newly formed Gakuo Foundation began opening shelters for homeless people, giving both short-term support and pathways to steady work. They also assisted abandoned children to find loving homes, awarding scholarships to break cycles of poverty. Pain Kamau knew intimately. The world was amazed by Kamau's path from desperate wanderer to discovered heir, and then to philanthropist. He became an emblem of perseverance, proving that even the bleakest backgrounds can be overcome. Zaina, employing her social links, rallied backing for causes once ignored by the wealthy. Together they demonstrated the true worth of a person is found in raising others. Their tale reminded everyone that compassion can thrive, that a small act of sympathy can set enormous change in motion. Looking back, Kamau and Zaina felt gratitude for their remarkable odyssey. What started as a harsh plan of vengeance evolved into a chronicle of love, redemption, and optimism. Through the Gaku Hassan Foundation, they labored tirelessly to bring transformation where it was needed, proving that even in the darkest hour, care can triumph. One considerate gesture in a busy city street had sparked a movement that brightened countless futures, showing that genuine love and compassion can conquer the greatest shadows. If you liked this account, we welcome you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your help fuels our efforts to bring you heartfelt stories almost daily. Do not miss the next surprising tale that is about to appear on your screen. We are extremely thankful to have you here. You can click on the links popping up on the screen at this moment. We have a special set for you, packed with remarkable stories and guaranteed entertainment. We will see you there.